Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad, and today we are talking DeepBrain. Yes, it's the very company that is all about AI and one that I have spoken to before, but I certainly haven't spoken with Dongyan Wang, who is a very important representative of DeepBrain and here with us today. So Dongyang, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
So if you're not familiar with Dongyan, he is a veteran global AI leader in the space, and he recently did join the DeepBrain team, and he has a significant amount of experience, not just acting as the Chief AI Officer of DeepBrain, but also he is the organizational officer, he is the executive, the VP, and he's also held many positions in Silicon Valley. So without further ado, Dongyan, could you please tell us a bit about yourself, mate, and why you are such an expert in this field of AI?
Oh, thank you for having me, and glad to meet with everybody over YouTube. So my name is Dongyan, and I've been in Silicon Valley for almost 20 years, basically being senior executives for a lot of the Fortune companies like Samsung, Cisco, NetApp, which is the second largest enterprise storage company. And I did my own startup, founded my own VC 6 years ago as well. And all these years has been really doing is really around data science and artificial intelligence.
Right.
My educational background from bachelor to PhD has always all been AI. This is a true major in AI. For example, my bachelor graduation, I did a speech synthesis for my hometown's weather station.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is in the 80s. So I worked 3 months very hard on that, and that project has been used for our weather station for quite a few years. And then my master thesis actually was working on target recognition using neural network. That was the first time we started using neural network in the 80s. This is try to help the torpedo to recognize target.
And that's quite early as well, Dongyang, to be doing that kind of stuff that early
that's
on.
actually quite early. Yeah, my professor in the university actually has been one of the pioneer about using neural network in China. And of course, she is well respected, Miss Chen. But because his son actually was studying in Berkeley, his son was a professor in Berkeley. So they have very early exposure on neural network, and that's the reason.
So
my
can I just clarify with you? Sorry to interrupt,
Sure.
but can I clarify with you who that person was? I'm just not quite sure. Was that you said Professor Chen?
Yeah, his name is Professor Chen Shuxian. She's basically a very well-respected professor in our university and also
just
even
to clarify,
in China education.
So just, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I'm just not quite sure. She or he?
She.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously she is, as you mentioned, a pioneer. A lady in this space is quite rare. And what's more impressive is she's someone who really was a good mentor for you in this space.
Yeah. I think she gave me early exposure of the neural network. This is in the very early stage, and then later on kind of brought me to this career path. And then I went on. When I came to US, I was studying kind of AI for image processing and video processing.
Right.
But as we all know, after graduation in the late 90s, AI was not popular. So I came to the Silicon Valley directly, and on my job, I joined Samsung actually to do distributed computing. That's actually kind of a detour from kind of the AI, but actually all the in nature we're talking about distributed computing, resource allocation, all those things.
Right.
We were PKing with Microsoft on kind of distributed computing in the home environment, right? Kind of smart home. We went to CES all the time every year. And after that, I joined Cisco. But all those Cisco and NetApp years, about 12 years, we are all doing data science. It's basically trying to use so-called, right now we call it machine learning, of course, techniques, try to find, value out of the data, right? So in Cisco, I actually worked through almost all the organizations through 8 years, starting from manufacturing, engineering, then moved to HR, and working on the finance and workforce analytics as well, and then go to marketing and sales and services analytics, so-called customer intelligence. Okay. So there are many examples of value, but one of them is actually Cisco realized about $1 billion a year through data analytics and data mining for 7 years. So this is the public data Cisco announced on Teradata conference. basically saying $7 billion in 7 years for the customer intelligence effort, which I was the direct leader. Right?
Well, right. Well, sorry to interrupt, but let's pull it back a bit. I mean, obviously we could go on about your credentials. What is for sure is that you've worked for Cisco, NetApp, Media, Samsung, 500, Fortune 500 companies essentially. And if you want to know more, certainly go to the website, have a look at Dongyang's credentials. Certainly, it's all there. But I wanted to get really down into the crux of why we're speaking today, and that is about DeepBrain itself. So, given all this experience, if we pulled it down into the value point of DeepBrain with its AI underpinning, being the AI computing platform that's driven by blockchain. What is it exactly about DeepBrain, if you could explain to the layperson, that really sets it apart, and what is it essentially?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't trying to dragging on my credential. I was just trying to get to the point of traditional ways of doing AI, right? Even for my last job, my idea group, the second largest consumer electronics company in the world, typically you start with doing AI like this way. You go to buy some AI workstations, like typically with NVIDIA GPUs, 4 GPUs, 8 GPUs, or like in our cases, for many of our customers, like for my own startup and also for my idea, you build like a 128 GPU, super computer cluster, right? It's a GPU cluster, and you hire a team and you spend, a lot of time trying to configure the software, try to start, have an environment and a platform, and then you collect data, cleanse data, annotate data, do the labeling, and then you get the models, and then you start training, and you iterate that training models for many, many times, right? So it's a very, very costly and lengthy process. What attracted me to DeepBrain Chain, since I'm being an AI person, and I mentioned I run my own, venture capital fund, and we invest primarily in the AI target. When I look at DeepBrain Chain, when their CEO Feng talked with me, for the third time, I realized this is a very disruptive and innovative business model, because by using the token economy, we can allow AI companies or companies with AI needs to get their AI computing power 70% cheaper. Right. And also can get the data labeling effort very cheaper, because using the community members, and they were, who were compensated by the tokens. Sure. Right? So it's a very different model to allow huge cost reduction and also very quick time to market for AI application development.
Right. Can we just pull it back though for a moment? I do want the audience to understand in a nutshell what this is, what DeepBrain is. And you argue that you are the world's first AI computing platform itself. So yes, you are trying to make it more efficient, but can you explain to us fundamentally what it is, and also with regard to why blockchain? What really is the fundamental crux of this system, and what sets it apart from centralized models of AI?
So just like I said earlier, but in simple words, AI is very popular. To do AI, we need three things, right? One, you need computing power. Second, you need some AI models, especially popular deep learning model. And third, you need data to train the models. Right. So for any AI development, you need these three things to make it work. DeepBrain Chain is trying to use blockchain to connect and allow people to share these three resources on the blockchain securely, because that's what the blockchain is the best. So have smart contract, have encryption to allow people to share these things correctly. So in a way, in a simple term to understand is that we are trying to be in the Uber in AI, right? We're trying to allow people to share the resources. Anytime resources are being shared, the cost goes lower, right? And the people can get services better and faster.
Sure. So essentially, really, the blockchain is a mechanism. It's because the AI itself is really the crux of the business of DeepBrain. And then blockchain itself is just a means for this to be efficient and be accessible in ways that have never been done before. Is that fair to say?
That's right. You can consider this as another level of the cloud, right? So today, you can go to AWS, Amazon, Web Services to get GPU servers and do your training and data. However, you either choose AWS or you choose Google or choose other company, right? But DeepBrain Chain, you can almost think that this is a global cloud. We connect everything together. It may even include AWS in the future, right? But you can basically access those computing power, model, and data without knowing where they are. So it's a truly decentralized cloud.
I see. So obviously, in designing this, there needs to be key advantages that set you apart. So could we talk about those as well, Dongyang, in terms of what are the key advantages for this architecture that you've created with your team?
So I think there are two aspects. One is the blockchain, one is the AI, right? On the blockchain side, we have done a lot of work. When I came to the company from my background, we have a very, very impressive blockchain team. They all come from BAT, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, and Huawei, those kind of leading Chinese companies who, which has large-scale commercial network, right? As we know, like Alibaba and Tencent, they have huge, huge infrastructure. So scalability is one big thing. So for us, our blockchain is targeting for 1 million TPS and the 1 billion network nodes, which is actually quite more scalable target even than US, right? As everybody know. And security, we have both passive and aggressive, passive and active security. We even began to use AI to monitor security, anomalies and those issues. And also, our consensus is quite unique. We're considering all the resources, the stake, and also activities on the network. So it's we are going to actually formally announce this pretty soon about our new consensus name. So we're still finalizing the names.
I see.
I call it AI-based proof of contribution. Basically, the contribution can be how much tokens you own, like a DPoS. It can be how much activities you are doing, like the POI, and also can be based on the resources you have. For example, how much computing power or storage you are holding, right?
Right.
So we're considering every stakeholders in the community, and we are basing that to form a community, and we randomly pick some of the nodes to make sure security. So nobody even know who are our fixed consensus nodes.
Okay.
So there are a lot of innovation we're doing on the blockchain side. We're trying to be a public chain. We're trying to be an AI foundation chain. Other AI companies can, issue tokens or do projects or using just the ecosystem on our blockchain.
Right. Just to recap those key points, you reiterate, as advantages, you explained these three things. You explained that the team is really one thing that sets you apart with the credentials once again. You explained also moving on to the consensus algorithm itself is an innovative and up-and-coming design to be released, and certainly you have a hybrid model that's present now. And more importantly,
and also security
and scalability.
Security, those are very important.
Sure, and I wanted to talk to you about that because with security and scalability, you mentioned an important number, and we hear this kind of thing floating around. So I want to be really direct. We hear 1 million TPS quite a lot. So how can we trust that number? How do we know that you can actually scale to that? What evidence do you have to show, and what testing have you done?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good question. So first, we look at the scalability. We had to look at the architecture, right? So from the architecture perspective, we're doing vertical sharding, we're doing the horizontal sharding. So by nature, that will give us more scalability than some of the leading architecture like the US, right? I'm sure we totally respect the US and other projects. They're doing a lot of cool things, but we are also trying to moving ahead with more advanced architecture. Our engineering team is very strong. Our testnet will be live in June timeframe, and our mainnet will be live in Q4 timeframe. We're very confident, the system will be up and running because we need to move a lot of data and transactions across the chain, for the AI specific applications.
Absolutely. And what's exciting, I think the key point there you mentioned in your roadmap is you are talking 2008 to 18 in terms of serious movements with your alpha and your beta. So we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
But if we could now talk about some of the updates as well, Dongyan, because clearly you've been doing a lot lately, and this is the crux also of this interview, is to provide for more information of late. So recently you were in Korea, I understand, and attending a global tech tour, or your team was rather. So how did that go, and how important are these kinds of events that you're attending?
So I have been flying around the world quite often. We were in China, in Korea, and back to the Silicon Valley, and then went to Las Vegas. So in Korea, we have our first global meetup, which we have very, very enthusiastic attendees from the local community. They ask good questions. The major things there, we actually, one, we are trying to communicate our revised strategy a little bit. I would say more clarified strategy. For example, a lot of people misunderstood us as a NEO-based chain, right? NEO was our investor, and we have very good relation with NEO, but we are building our chain as a public chain, right?
I think that's a really important point to make, because often there is that conflation, that misappropriation simply because of investment. But let's be really clear right from the outset, you are your own AI-focused blockchain platform, specifically for AI.
especially optimized for AI projects, because we realize all the current solutions, like they are not really good fit for what we want to do. Right. That's number one strategic message. Number two is our customers are not only companies doing AI, right? What we call the AI companies, because those are our important partners. They are our initial waves of customers. But our true customers can be basically any companies with AI needs, right? So that could be almost everybody, right? Because in the future, in the next 20 years, we believe AI and blockchain are the two mega trends, and anybody will have AI needs from a factory, that may have like a visual inspection needs of their manufactured products, or to a call center, which have NLP needs, natural language processing, right? Or like social analytics. So I think AI will be in every aspect of this.
So really, a multitude of industries, if not all industries, is what you're suggesting. And when you say clients, are you also inferring that this could be translated into some sort of DApp use, whereby they utilize your blockchain in the sense that they become a DApp with their own tokenized system, an ecosystem?
Oh, sure. So I think if you look at the AI, like I mentioned earlier, there's three components doing AI, right? You need to have computing power, data, and the models. But for a company who does not have an AI team or any AI expertise, they can come to our chain to find those three resources. They can also find a fourth dimension of the resources, could be a service provider or system integrators. So those companies could be providing integration services, putting those things together and give the client a solution customized for the client's business needs in days or weeks to solve the business problem. Because most of the companies they don't really care about the AI technology. They care about how much revenue AI services or applications can help their business. And that's what we want to enable, right? We're not trying to give people a technology solution only. We're trying to give the business users business solution. That's what I learned from Silicon Valley the most in the last 20 years. We're trying to, solving a business problem, generating revenue. We're not trying to do the technology for the sake of technology.
I see. So again, it moves into the business applications and certainly into, Silicon Valley, literally, in the sense that really it's about big business and enterprise, more importantly. If we could now talk about some of the other things that have happened in your, let's say in the last few months, there's been some heavyweights in terms of technicians who've moved into the DeepBrain domain, who've become part of the team. Can you tell us about yourself? Obviously, you've mentioned that, but there's other people who've also come in to support this, this innovative team that are really leading in the AI space.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, our blockchain team is very strong. We hired, 10 plus people in the blockchain team. And I was in Shanghai, our headquarters. Early on, I was saying, hey, this culture is very like similar Silicon Valley. People come to the office early in the morning, and then they don't leave until after 11 o'clock. Right. This is I was in the office one day at 11 o'clock. People are still working, and they still have meetings. Very, very hot discussions. So I think people who join DeepBrain Chain team truly believe DeepBrain Chain is a very, very solid and a real project, and it can change the world. Right. That's what I believe. I was joking in the Korea meetup. I was saying, after so many years in AI and as an investor, I kind of decided to invest myself all into DeepBrain Chain. Right. So I think a lot of the talent are like that way. So they have a lot of background in the blockchain area. In the Silicon Valley team, we actually now have 4 people, but we made another 4 offers. So we're actually hiring in top-notch engineers in the AI space. We also have a strong marketing team established here. Our head of marketing in North America was a former marketing head from Cheetah Mobile, one of the leading mobile companies. So we are really strengthening our team, both in headquarters Shanghai, China, and also establishing a team in Silicon Valley. We're going to build a 20-plus people team in Silicon Valley this year with top-notch people from Silicon Valley.
And Dongyan, what's exciting is that you said the key word of expertise, in the sense that you're really not just looking for a team, you're looking for a team of experts, and you're being quite picky and quite selective with your, I guess, your assessment of those who are great candidates for the DeepBrain team. And thank you for explaining that you have built this number out. If we could now talk about other developments in terms of code, how is the actual code built out with the base layer of your AI technology? How's that going, and how transparent is it?
So actually, that goes back to the early question. I think you asked about the innovation of DeepBrain Chain. I only answered the blockchain side. I didn't answer the AI side.
Right.
On the AI side, there are actually three components we are focusing on. One is hardware, right? Because we are selling AI mining workstations. I'm sure that's
Yes,
on your question list, and
yes.
it's a hot topic right now. The other one is AI software, the one's going to install on the AI mining machine. That's directly related to your question. And the third one is the AI applications. I mentioned a little bit earlier, right? We are going to build applications, but also more on the applications, the apps are going to be built by our partners, right? So back to your question. For the AI software we are building, we are hiring people from Silicon Valley. Some of those people used to work for me, and some of those, we're hiring from the open market. These are AI experts who has built AI platforms, efficient AI platforms, and distributed computing, distributed AI training software for many years in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has definitely has many good AI resources.
Right.
We are very picky. And we are build a strong team. So we want to make sure our team can build those software once, right? Or integrate those software once, and so we can save everybody on the DeepBrain chain those trouble to set up AI environments, set up AI platforms, and optimize the training. We want to make AI development as almost like a turnkey software. We want to give you something you can install on your miner with one click, right? Eventually, this is our end vision, and you can have the task issued and begin to focus on the real business issue solving rather than trying to focus on the foundation things.
I see.
Right.
So essentially, you really want to just be, as you were mentioning before, you're not just simply the technology, you are the service, and you are also very much focused on the provisions for a seamless application. So that people can literally just arrive and use and benefit from DeepChain.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one important aspect of it. We are also later we'll talk about the mining machine. Our mining machine, AI mining machine, is fully working AI workstations. These are the same workstations AI companies like Google, Uber, they are using, for training AI models. So we just happen to light it in mind to reduce 70% of the cost using token economy. However, these AI machines, they use cutting edge software, right? And all this, and also the popular AI training toolkit. We want to make those things software optimized for each. This is a very important concept. We want to make the AI training software optimized for each of the workstation or each node. But we are also doing cutting edge research to try to make sure all these different nodes on the DeepBrain chain, globally, can work together to train much larger models and much more accurate models.
Right.
In AI, the deeper and the wider your neural network is, the more accurate it can solve your real world problem. Right? So that's a cutting edge research we're doing. So I called it basically eyes on the stars and feet on the ground. So we are eyeing the cutting edge, algorithms. If we make a breakthrough, will be some level at the Jeff Dean level, right? But on the other side, I don't want people to think we are an Aircoin project. A lot of people ask us, nobody question our vision, right? I ask a lot of VC friends before I joined DeepBrain Chain about, hey, have you guys heard DeepBrain Chain? How do you think about it? I have not met a single person saying, I don't believe you are a good project, you have a good vision. Everybody asks the question, can you guys really get it done? It sounds very difficult.
And I think that's the whole point of providing these updates, to be honest with you, Dongyan, because by doing these, we can show the process rather than the product. We can show the iterations. And speaking of iteration, perfect segue, so thank you, with regard to iteration 1 and 2. Because clearly these are perfect exemplars of how you're building out your design so that you can achieve your final goals of becoming a product for ease of application. So tell us a bit more about the tension flow framework, how the 2 iterations are going, and why that progress is so important.
Yeah, so we are currently doing the TensorFlow AI training deployment on our testnet. That's really just more like a first baby step. Try to show we can use one of the most popular AI training framework on the blockchain, right. Environment. But in the next few months, we are going to do much more work. Number one, we're going to support most of the other popular AI software like PyTorch, like a Cafe, a few others. Of course, we're going to pick our priorities, for the first release. But the more important, we are going to optimize those software and also the underlying layers of that.
Okay.
That's really our expertise. I think most people will use TensorFlow and just use that as is. But actually, for all my last 6 to 10 years, we always optimize those commercial. Those open source software because they are not optimized, right? So we are trying to make our environment train faster, more easier to use. All those expertise we hope we can bring in and contribute back to the open source community, so we can make the DBC, the DeepBrain Chain AI training, one of the most efficient, right? So I think that's a very, very high technology barrier. Most of the other companies without having a Silicon Valley AI team. Probably it's pretty hard to do.
Absolutely,
right?
and clearly you're solving those problems.
Yeah, and we hope that could become our competitive advantage in one way or another. Yeah.
Right, well, let's explore that. I know you wanted to talk about this earlier, so let's explore it now. And that is with regard to your mining workstations, your AI global mining workstations. A lot of things happening. I've seen some of the articles published online, and there's some really clear information, much like almost a price and product list, about how people can go about accessing them. So tell us a bit about the 3 systems available, what's involved, and why you've done it this way.
Yeah. So I think if anybody who have done AI, they look at this kind of list, they think it's pretty familiar, right? Because that's the AI workstations they are spending, $30,000-$40,000 each US dollars to buy, right? So typically we are looking at basically 4 lines that we publicly announced. The 3 lines. One is we call the mid range, basically like 2 GPUs. They're small machines, really more doing prototyping, right? We actually have even a home version only with 1 GPUs, right? The large scale ones with 4 GPUs and 8 GPUs. So this is the most common used for AI companies, basically train deep learning models. The 8 GPU, you can train ResNet, for example, with most, common use, right? And then we have the last one is we call the super large scale. This is AI clusters. The GPU clusters, heterogeneous CPU plus GPU clusters with like anything more than 1634, 3264, 128 GPUs. We are going to build 2 super clusters, one in Shanghai and one in Silicon Valley, 128 GPUs. And these are the things you use for train models like autonomous driving or other, very, very advanced AI models. Or you can train model much, much faster, right? Yeah, an example can be if I have an 8 GPU machine, I can train a model. Probably it take me 2 months. But if I'm using a 128 GPU, maybe take me only days, right? Or less than a week.
Right.
So
what's exciting about having those products as well is not just having that variance an option built in for different use cases and certainly for different clients, but also there's a profit estimation that's provided, and certainly there's profitability built into these mechanisms and these products.
That's right. So like you can tell from what I was speaking, I was very, very enthusiastic about this topic because those are truly AI workstations people are can make it useful. They're not like only a mining machine, only can do Bitcoin mining, right? And do POW and basically do sheer waste of energy, right? And to mine tokens. Ours AI workstation, if you take the software away of the mining software away, it is truly just an AI workstation. Any like Stanford, Berkeley, CMU, these top universities, they can just take this and then do AI training. By adding the DeepBrain Chain token economy, the beauty of this is it can do mining and also AI deep learning. Right. Training, for example, or machine learning training. So 70% of the cost of the mining machine basically covered by the token economy. So we did in our press release, we did some examples. For example, for the 8 GPU machines, cost about $27,000. If you include the facilities like hosting or shipping setup, let's say $30,000, you can get the money back by mining in about 106 days. So less than 4 months, you get all your money back.
That's quite amazing considering
that's one important thing I want to say. That's assuming we have a total 2,500 GPUs on the whole DBC network. That's important to know. But as we all know from Bitcoin, the early miners always get the best benefits because we may not have 2,500. If it's only have 250, then your mining income increased by 10 times. Right. Of course, as the DBC price goes up, we can increase the number of GPUs. Then we are increasing our GPU capacity for the whole network.
And what's exciting also is that, as it's very clear in your website information, is that you have that capacity to expand your nodes. to the millions, not the hundreds of thousands even. So that's exciting. And also you want to increase your CPU power as well.
Yeah, I think since we're doing AI, and the primary effective training power today is GPUs, right? Especially NVIDIA GPUs. So that's our primary focus.
Right.
There will be some CPUs in the network, but those are more for coordinating the training rather than doing the training.
Okay. Well, it's exciting that you do have that product, and certainly if people would like to know more, there are different websites that explain clearly what the workstations are all about. If we could now talk about perhaps your community as well. No doubt the community itself has grown substantially. So what's happening on the front of community management and leading the way to try and really build this synergy between the very innovative and new community model of business that is obviously synergized with blockchain?
Yeah, actually, when I joined DeepBrain Chain, I was very, very amazed by the the active contributions of our community members. And in the Korea meetup, actually, my first 2 slides are basically the stickers and the videos made by our community team members. They're very professional, and they really show the passion and love they have on the DBC project. So I don't post much messages on the community because my marketing team tell me don't do that.
Right. Okay.
But actually, I browse through our community very often. I kind of watch people's questions, and I kind of give answers to our team members. And I think we have much to do to really do more community building and leveraging a lot of talent in the community. We want to really help them to be more involved. But as we said, our team was very small, so we hope we can increase that connection.
Well, what is exciting, Dongyan, is that you do have quite a significant number of members on various different platforms. You have Telegram with several members. You have Twitter, Reddit, Facebook. So things are looking good in terms of the growth of them. But let's now move across to marketing as well. What's being done to really build out DeepBrain, not just in the social media space, but most importantly in the mainstream as well?
Well, I think that's what we have. In the last 3 weeks, we were in 4 conferences and presentations, right? And then because of my reputation and the past engagement, most of these presentations we got premium slot, right? For example, in the AI Congress in Las Vegas, we are on the main track, and we are on the second presenter in the morning, basically introduced by Amazon expert, and the presentation before us is Google TensorFlow and machine learning, and then we are the second one. So in other conferences, pretty much similar. So we are, capturing a lot of market's attention. We got invited without sponsorship to many conferences to speak about our project, right? And these people are truly AI experts that they know we are a solid project, right? And all my presentation, I was very happy, got greeted by a lot of people. Our score is pretty high, and they think we are a real project. I think to answer your question, net from a marketing perspective, I think we just truly need to let more people understand the story of DeepBrain Chain. Like I said earlier, right? We are a public chain. We are AI foundation chain. We're not really just an improvement on another chain, right? Our customers could be companies, all companies with AI needs, which will be a huge market. And our vision is distribute AI training across nodes, but we can make the most efficient and the best training on single node, right? Even making that happen, right? It will be a huge, achievements, because we will have thousands of these mining workstations on our network and tens of thousands of GPUs. And that will make us probably only second to Amazon AWS or Google in the world in terms of GPU computing power by early next year.
And I think you raised the point, a very substantial point of your position in the marketplace and your vision for next year. I mean, we're talking some very big companies when you say Amazon and Google, and you're optimistic that you can play at that level. And, right now I want to ask you 2 things. Obviously, you've mentioned that there's been a bit of an organic process so far. Clearly, there will be a point in time where you really move into a different gear with mainstream marketing strategies. But right now, it is relatively organic. But certainly, in terms of your position in the decentralized AI space, is it fair to say you do have pole position right now globally, and you are actually doing more, so far in terms of evidencing your progress, evidencing your integration into, even alpha and beta, moving towards real applications in business.
Yeah.
Are you leading the way?
Yeah, well, I think we again, for the last month, I was in DeepBrain Chain. We can see a lot of interest in our projects. We have companies coming to us, want to partner with us. There's AI companies, some of them are very, very big companies. You really share our vision about reducing the cost and increasing the speed of AI development.
And just how big are we talking as well, Dongyan? How big are we talking with these companies?
Well, in terms of big companies, I'm talking about billion-dollar revenues, unicorns, and double unicorns. These kind of big companies, right? Of course, a lot of other blockchain companies want to work with us as well, because we are the only company, we're the first AI plus blockchain company. I think we can safely claim that. But we are still the only company who will the only company that will provide AI computing power, GPU computing power. There's nobody else can provide that. I want to reemphasize my point there earlier. I don't know if you or our audience really catch that. Is by selling the AI mining machines, because our economic model is very good and you can get your money back in 106 days, right? In 100 days. That's actually in addition to you can rent that machine out for additional income, right? That's in addition to the DBC price goes up, then your return will be much faster, and also you get a fully functional AI workstation which you can resell easily after a few years for quite some money, right?
I see.
So with that economic, if assuming people will buy a lot of our AI mining machines by early next year, like I mentioned, we will have tens of thousands of GPUs, right? That will give us a power to attract AI model developers and the AI data set builders to our ecosystem, because those are real solid assets on DBC chain. And we even allow people to have their own workstations to install our software, become hooked into the DBC ecosystem.
And Dongyan, you said a very important term there as well. You called it an asset. So that's essentially what you're really trying to allude to, is that this is not a liability by purchasing this. This is designed to be an asset that's going to provide people the world over, essentially with income, an income stream that's far beyond the potentials of pre-existing models that just weren't afforded this opportunity in centralized AI marketplaces. So it's really quite a revolution, I would argue, in as we move into this kind of domain of AI tech, and coupled with enterprise.
I think totally we want to have each investor make their own decision, right? Because there is risk, in any investment. But I think I will use example of the early days Bitcoin miners, right? When the Bitcoin price was very low and people mining those coins, and they got huge returns after, right? I will argue our AI mining machine provide a similar return like that, but also meanwhile, the AI workstation is a truly functional AI workstation, which we're truly doing real work to do AI development.
And it's also designed to be a first and foremost a utility.
Yes, and you use it for something truly useful in the real world, right? And not just something after the mining is done and then become useless.
Right, exactly. And I think your allusion there is pretty clear with regard to how we progressed from the first iterations of, I guess, blockchain purpose and intent. Now, let's talk about your partners as well. You've alluded to some. We want to continue on that track, because clearly you're well positioned to know more than anyone in the world about what is happening with these connections or interconnections with business. So tell us more about what you can with regard to how you're forging more partnerships that perhaps people want to know as you build out your position.
Yeah, I think right now, to be honest, we are really focusing to do a good job of first tell people clearly about our story, and second, really form our Silicon Valley team and also work with our headquarters team in Shanghai very closely to develop our product. That should be our first and foremost priority.
Well, it certainly is, but there are some partnerships that have happened. For example, with Tokenomy, I'm not sure how to say it.
I'll get to that, because I think there are a lot of companies come to us to try to partner with us, and of course we're open to partnership, right? So we are discussing with quite some companies on further partnership, especially once our mainnet is up and running in Q4, right? You probably will see more partnership, come that way.
Okay.
But I think by market kind of circulating market cap were like 110 each, global, the largest. And if you count by the total market cap, we're over $1 billion. So we are a unicorn by ourselves, right? So I think we'll rather take a position to say if people come to partner with us, we'll open our arms to embrace that. But we are not really spending a lot of our effort to try to really search around and try to find more partners to boost our, our market cap. Because
very interesting.
To be honest, we are. I think people are coming to seek after our partnership.
I see. Right? So, very interesting you say that. What I'm hearing is confidence. You don't necessarily feel that you need to go and reach out to companies. If they have something to offer specifically, that's great, but really you're focused on what you're doing. So thank you for your transparency on that. And now let's talk about exchange as well. Obviously, you are already out on exchanges. Can you tell us a bit more about what exchanges you're on right now, how difficult it was to get on them, and what is the plan in terms of more access? Because that's essentially what an exchange does, gives us more access to your utility.
That's probably the most asked question in our community, right? Sure. And every once in a while, probably every day, we saw picture people asking, can we get a BN, right? Sure. BNs. So we are on Huobi right now. We're on Kubi. We're on Gate.io. So we are on a few exchanges. I will say the company is very practical. We're not trying to burn a lot of resources or money try to get on more exchanges. Obviously, we are working to get on more exchanges, right? But we have to balance on the cost of that. I mean, a common discussion we have, if we become the top 50 circulating market cap company, I think most of the exchanges will open arms to us, maybe no cost even, right? We're about 110, so we're not that far away. So
could that possibly include Binance? And I ask you this quite sincerely, not to try and inject hype into it, because it's a very expensive process. The reality is that Binance costs a lot of money for companies to be part of, typically. So obviously, you're trying to be, budget the whole system to be more profitable for yourselves as a burgeoning company. Is it something in your mind that it tends to preclude you from these bigger exchanges simply because of the cost?
Oh, no, not really, because we're definitely open. We're open to any exchange, right? With good volume and security, and take care of our investors. So we're definitely open to that. But there is a balance of how much cost we're willing to spend on getting on exchanges towards like spending this money to develop our product, right? Like we are very confident to our product. So we are carefully picking those exchanges. I think we can see the best performance, to cost ratio, right? So our team is working very hard to try to get on, those exchanges, especially our marketing team. I think you will see, more and more exchanges will get on, as time goes by. But we will very practical, and we're pretty picky, right? To be honest, there are many exchanges. These are typically the smaller ones actually come to us, want to invite us to be on their exchanges. The question is really on this a few big ones, right? I think everybody talk about. It's a very practical solution. Our senior executives of the company talk very often, and so we will take the best approach of that.
Well, what's exciting, what you're saying, is that as you build out your own revenue, then more options come onto the table with regard to what you can potentially decide for the future with regard to exchanges. So we'll stay tuned, and we'll look forward to seeing you, opt for different exchanges. Certainly, some bigger ones, I'd imagine, be coming. Now, in terms of your platform itself, again, you are all about trying to provide for a secure data as a trading platform. So can you talk us through a little bit more about how you provide for that security of data in your system so that people can trust it?
Yeah. So data is almost like the oil of, for AI, right? So we to do any meaningful training, we have to have data, and have to have good quality data, and the data. A lot of the data companies they sell data for very, very big price because they all know if they sell the data once, the data is gone, right? The data is taken, and then you can pretty much assume you can only sell it a few times, and then it's going to be afloat on the internet somewhere, right?
Exactly.
And of course, big enterprises, they are so afraid of kind of offering data. But a lot of the researchers and AI companies need data. They don't need the private data. They don't need the personalized data. They need the data kind of more statistics or kind of from a higher level try to get their model working, right? That's why you see Google, Amazon, these companies are offering free free technology software. They're trying to get the data, right?
Of course.
So for DeepBrain Chain, because we're using blockchain, of course, fundamentally the data is transmitted securely over our blockchain. It's stored securely on our blockchain. But also, more importantly, we develop some cutting-edge technology to allow all this data can be enabled for training also securely. It's going to be in a well-contained environment. The training is performed. After that, the data is dispersed. So this will allow the data being used again and again and again for value and for truly meaningful use, but without being compromised, without being copied.
I see.
Right? So that's actually one way to make it happen. And same model, we can make it work for the AI models as well. The model developers can have their models being used, multiple times and for more token earnings, right? So we try to make every contributor to the community, either data contributors or data set builders, or those people try to help cleanse the data, annotate the data, or develop the models. All they can be compensated by DBC tokens, and they can all have a win-win situation.
Right. Well, obviously, having that replication also makes it more efficient too, which is really great because up until now we haven't really heard of that situation happen. But obviously, built into that too, Dongyan, is that you would have incentivizations. So we mentioned this before. Can you tell us a bit more about how you're going to build out this incentivization system so that people can really benefit consistently throughout the years?
Yeah. So that's a very good point. If you read our white paper, you will know our circulation tokens are only 15%. It's only 15%. So we actually reserve a large chunk, 50% of our tokens, 5 billion tokens for mining, right? So basically, it's incentive and compensation to our community. So that's about 500 million tokens a year. So if you use the current price about 10 cents, that's about $50 million US, right? We're going to just airdrop to our community, right? But of course, the token price goes up. That's going to increase very quickly. Out of the 500 million tokens, 350 million we're going to use to reward the GPU computing power owners. So this is the AI mining machines.
Right.
Another 100 million we're going to reward those people who own storage or internet bandwidth. So we can encourage people to, for example, if you help to store data right on your machine, of course securely, and you will be compensated by tokens as well. So that's actually a very significant, compensation incentive for people to help to contribute to the DBC ecosystem.
I see. Well, it's exciting that is provided and built in. Now, with your roadmap as well, obviously we've alluded to some key points, but can we just really focus on some of the Q2 and Q3 elements, particularly with regard to the alpha and beta? And even if we could talk about the progressions towards 2019 with regard to master nodes, because that is something that is on the forefront of everyone's minds in terms of release. So let's discuss those three.
Yeah. So our testnet, like I mentioned, it will be live in June. So that will give, I think, people a lot of a pick of, what we have done innovations on the blockchain and what's the distributed AI training will look like. Right. But of course, through Q3, Q4, especially with the newly built Silicon Valley team, we're going to make a lot of progress to try to make the AI training more like a turnkey process and make it easy to use and make it optimized. And then by the end of the year, we'll try to have our own AI training software and integration, available on the mainnet, along with the mainnet live. Right. So that's our major milestone. Of course, hopefully by then we will have thousands of the mining machines already around the world, right? And then in early 2019, for the roadmap I defined is we are going to have optimized single node training software, and we are going to begin to have optimize the distributed AI training software from Q3 and Q2 and the Q3 timeframe. So those are the more like the technology breakthroughs we have to do. Right. I think if we do our good job, we will begin to see a lot more mining GPU hardware and resources on our ecosystem, and a lot of the AI companies kind of jumping on the wagon, and users as well to use our system. I expect our community and user base to grow exponentially.
And let's talk about that a bit more in terms of often we see in this climate people very ambitious and wanting to see things happen tomorrow, or if not within weeks. So what do you say to people, quite sincerely, who, given your business savvy, your entrepreneurial skills, and more importantly your technological prowess in this space, what would you say to that sort of comment that why isn't it happening faster?
Well, I think for blockchain development, a lot of recent events, people see security problem, right? So if some tokens got totally wiped out, because of security issue, so internally we are very serious about protecting our investors interest, right? So we're a technology company. A lot of people, our background, including our CEO, they are all technology AI background. So we really appreciate the challenges and even the kind of the pitfalls, right, in this area. So we're not really that naive. Because we have learned our lessons and we have burned ourselves before, so we truly respect those challenges. We want to do a good job. We rather want to under-promise and over-deliver, right?
Sure.
On the other side, I have been in Silicon Valley for 20 years. We always try to think through our plan and then execute accordingly. Personally, I have not ever, again, missed my commitment. Right. I hope DeepBrain Chain is not going to be the first one I'm going to miss.
It's a pretty good record to have, Dongyan. It's a very strong one.
It's a very hard one to make, to keep. But I think we want to. This is a hard problem, right? That's why we're still the only one facing this issue, and that's why a lot of people are saying this project is very hard to do. But with the Silicon Valley presence, with the company's investment in Silicon Valley team, I'm pretty confident we can make it happen.
Absolutely.
And we'll iterate and evolve and improve, over the time as well.
And we do appreciate your itemized roadmap. And if people would like to know more, there's certainly a lot of information that it itemizes them as they move through, not just 2018, 2019, even 2020. So it is a longitudinal plan that they have built in for something that's real, arguably, from their position. Now, if we could just talk perhaps of, your vision and your final statement as well, Dongyan, with someone in your chief role. What do you foresee in terms of the key points that you'd like to raise for the audience?
I think just sooner or later, right? Elon Musk is one of my, I respect him a lot. I almost view him as my model, right? So I think Elon Musk, he has a great vision, and he make those things happen, logically, step by step. There are some delays. I think people can argue, right, about the car, but still, everybody love the product and everybody believe in the vision. It's almost second to none.
Sure.
I think the question on the AI side is. I use this analogy. AI is very hard to do, probably equally or maybe more like the Tesla, right? But my point is, we want to plan it well. We want to really execute it well. But just people have to think about the vision first, right? Let's say if you look forward in 2019, if you think about DeepBrain Chain, will have tens of thousands of AI mining machines, and each one has 4 or 8 GPUs, right, or even 2. So we may have, if we do our job right, we may have 20,000, 30,000 GPUs, which were top 5 GPU computing power in the world, right?
Wow.
Easily can be that. And then we have, let's say, hundreds, if not thousands of AI companies contributing their software, their AI services on the DeepBrain Chain. And then you have much more customers who come to us to either shopping for data, shopping for model, and then put those data and model together on our AI mining machine to do training and to solve their own specific problem.
I see.
If we really do our job right to make those things happen, I think people can think about how much value we can make for our investors.
Absolutely.
Right? So So I think that's the end vision I have in my mind. That's a lot of our senior executives and we were working very hard, 20 hours a day, trying to make it happen every day.
Absolutely. And Dongyan Wang, it's been an absolute honor speaking with you. You've made it really clear about all the different facets, quite sincerely, of DeepBrain. And just to recap as well, your vision is probably arguably the most fundamental aspect in that you really can see this being a real mainstay business, not solely just in the decentralized space, but in the marketplace of AI. You mentioned fundamentally just recently that you can see it quite easily becoming in the top 5. Perhaps it could even push it further. If you do the right, have the right formula, you have the right team, you have the right essential technology, then perhaps it could even go further and really surprise and shock those who are already trying to do this in a centralized sense. You are shaking things up, you're doing things perhaps that no one else has done, and you have said very clearly you are the world's first AI computing platform powered by blockchain. We wish you all the very best, and we'll look forward to speaking with you later.
Thank you. It's my honor to have you to interview us, and I hope to, through this channel, to see hello and thank you for our community members' support. And if you guys want to know more about DeepBrain Chain, welcome to join our Telegram or Reddit or other social platforms, and we'll keep you informed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.